listening, and engage in discussions. Reflection, contemplation, due to all of that, maybe become cause and conditions for oneself and all sentient beings to actualize the bodhicitta mind. And to be able to engage into the bodhisattva path, such as six perfections. And may we be help and benefit to all sentient beings while we're on the path. And eventually may we be able to obtain fully enlightened state and be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient beings. In the most skillful way, most effective way, without any limitations. Okay, so then we'll do the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Sangye chodang chogi chonam la changchu patu dani kyapsu che dagi sheshe gi be sonam gi yola penje sangye dupa sho. Sangye chodang chogi chonam la changchu patu dani kyapsu che dagi jinso gi be sonam gi yola penje sangye dupa sho. Sangye chodang choki chonam la chanchu padu dani kyatsu dagi jinsu gebe sonam gi yola penje sangye dubara sho. So today's topic is we have been kind of discussing about the six perfections practice over a few weeks now, and today we're on the fourth one, the perfection of perseverance. And maybe let me explain first maybe what the perseverance is here and the benefit of the perseverance, and then how to cultivate the perseverance, maybe mainly from those 3 points of view. And as in terms of the practice of six perfections, how each of perfection, the practice of perfection, support as for the next practice. How the generosity of practice support for the practice of moral discipline, how practice of moral discipline support as a foundation for the next practice, which is the patience, and how the practice of the patience support as a foundation for the practice of perseverance. And in terms of patience, when we practice and when we cultivate the practice of patience, as we mentioned last week, three level of patience, and one of the patience is to be able to endure any kind of hardship, in our practice, in our virtues, in our path. So when we have cultivated as that kind of patience to be able to endure and go through, having the patience to go through some of the challenges, difficulties that we might encounter while we are on the path, while we are trying to practice the virtues. And because of that patience, then, it will help us to be more perseverant and not give up our perseverance whenever we face any difficulties, challenges on our path, because of the practice of the patience of that, to be able to endure that. So then you will not give up your perseverance in your path, because sometimes when we encounter certain challenges, difficulties, we might be discouraged and we might be able to give up, when we don't have that kind of patience. And so that is how the patience act as the foundation and support for the next practice of the perseverance. And as Maitreya said, and as Chandrakirti says, all the spiritual realizations, all the spiritual qualities arises from the perseverance. Without perseverance, then one cannot achieve any kind of spiritual realizations. It's hard to achieve any spiritual realizations. So all the spiritual realizations and experiences comes through the practice of perseverance. So perseverance is the cause of all the spiritual realizations. And again, not only spiritual, even in our ordinary life, to be any success in any field, you need perseverance. Without perseverance, it's hard to succeed in any of field that you are trying to exile or that you are trying to accomplish. Perseverance is one of the important qualities, and there's no doubt perseverance is very much needed in our spiritual practice and for our spiritual dharma practice and for the realizations. So again, I won't go too detailed because again, all of that. So what is the perseverance? Here, when we talk about perseverance as part of the Bodhisattva's practice as the paramita or perfections of perseverance, there are three in this kind of perseverance. Then there are three kind of what will qualities in this. One, the objects of the perseverance has to be virtues here, because normally we can have perseverance towards non-virtues, effort or perseverance towards non-virtues, or we could have a perseverance towards, even is even is not a non-virtues, but still more neutral, something neutral. We could have a perseverance effort in that. But here, when you talk about perseverance of paramita, the object of the perseverance has to be virtues. So that is one. The practice of Bodhisattva's practice of perseverance has to be the virtues, not any other objects. The object has to be virtues. And of course, then other qualities is, the other qualities, a part of that is that you need to have kind of effort, perseverance or effort in the practice, the virtues, okay? Not being lazy, okay? Perseverance is antidote toward the laziness. So not being lazy, but having the perseverance or effort in our virtues, in our practice. That is one. The other qualities is being joyful in your practice, in your virtues. Okay. This perseverance, when you talk about the perseverance, the paramita, then sometimes we can have perseverance in something, but we might not have joyfulness that, isn't it? Sometimes we put effort in a lot of things, and we put effort, we have perseverance, but we might not be very joyful about that. Many of our work, you just go to work, not necessarily because you enjoy it, But here, when you talk about perseverance, the paramita, perseverance paramita, that not only you have the effort and perseverance in that your virtues, but that there is a joyfulness in that, and that qualities. And that is why, sometimes it's called joyous effort. You see different translations of this word, perseverance, enthusiasm, diligent, and sometimes you see translated as joyous effort. And so in this paramita, you have the joyfulness in your effort with joyfulness. And not only effort with joyfulness to anything, but towards virtues. So that is the, you could say, the definitions of this particular practice of perseverance paramita. So we have kind of discussed a little bit why we need the perseverance, because it's the very root of all the spiritual realizations. Now we spoke a little bit about what the perseverance is, to identify what paramita perseverance is. And next one, we can talk about how to cultivate that perseverance. How to cultivate that perseverance. And according to all the lamrims and the lamrims, if you read it, it's very much when it comes to the perseverance and many other subjects, it is taken mainly from the Shantideva's Gayatri Bosa way of life. So cultivate the perseverance, overcoming the obstacles. That is one thing. When you don't have obstacles, then there's no obstacle to cultivate that practice, that realizations. So overcoming the obstacles and gathering or collecting the conducive conditions to have that practice and that realizations in terms of two things. One, overcoming the interference or the obstacles, and the other is how to gather the supportive conditions for the practice, for the so the obstacle for the perseverance is laziness. As that is the main obstacles to cultivate the perseverance. If not, it's laziness. One of the main is laziness. Secondly, being distracted because we're attached to worldly things. So then we don't have the enthusiasm in our virtues and in our practice because we have been too distracted to worldly things. So that is whether it's non-virtues or whether it's more kind of neutral activities. And thirdly, is not having confidence in yourself and in your practice. When you don't have confidence in your practice and yourself, then you don't have same level of enthusiasm. But when you have more confidence in your own practice and in yourself, then it will give you more enthusiasm in your practice, and that helps you to, that enthusiasm, perseverance helps. So those are the main three obstacles, and laziness is, not being inspired, sometimes We are not being inspired by the practice, by the virtues. So that is why we become lazy. If you are very much inspired by it, probably will not be so lazy, because you are so inspired in that. And so one of the reasons why we don't enjoy our practice, one of the reasons why we don't have so much enthusiasm in our practice is because we are not being so much inspired. And in order to have that kind of inspirations, aspirations or inspirations in our practice, in the virtues, then we have to meditate, contemplate, think more on the benefit of the practice, the benefit of the virtues. The more you see the benefit, the more you understand, the more you feel the benefit, the more inspiration it gives you. If we don't feel the benefit of that practice, then you have less inspiration for that. The more you feel the benefit of that, the more inspiration you have. The more inspiration you have, the more enthusiasm you become in that practice. So therefore, it is meditating on all the benefit of the practice of the virtues. So that is how to overcome that laziness to give more inspirations. Second obstacles is being distracted to non-virtues, whether it's non-virtues or worldly, being distracted to non-virtues or worldly things and worldly objects, worldly experiences, because we're attached to those things, and therefore our mind gets distracted to that. And when your mind is distracted to that, then we run after them. Then you don't have the, you can't find the time, you can't find the inspiration to practice the Dharma or to practice the virtues, because we get too exhausted from all these other things. By the time you want to meditate, by the time you want to get practice, you already physically feel kind of, tired and exhausted. And so you try to meditate, you fall asleep. You try to practice, you fall asleep because you are too tired, exhausted, and because we have been too much distracted by other things. And so that is one of the things that so to counter that kind of attachment and distractions to worldly things, then meditating on impermanent in general and meditating on dead impermanent can be helpful to overcome the attachment and distractions. And you have less attachment, less distraction to worldly things, then you will find more time to our Dharma practice, more time for our meditations. And not only you will find more time, but also, you will have more enthusiasm in that, because you are not totally kind of exhausted by running and chasing after other things. And so that is, so meditating on, impermanent in general, how everything's, changes, how everything decay, how everything's come to the end, all the conditioned phenomena, including our life, everything comes to the end. And what help after the death is our own virtues, our own practice. That is the only thing that help. Nothing else. Or everything, we leave everything behind. If there is something that can help us after that, it's our own practice, our own virtues. So through that kind of meditation, reflection, contemplation, then we reduce the attachments and thereby distractions. And by reducing the attachment and distractions, then we are able to focus and to direct our mind more towards our virtues, to our practice, Dhamma practice. And thirdly, third obstacles is not having the self-confidence in either ourselves in our practice. So again, using many different examples of different individuals, who overcame their challenges in their practice at the very beginning of their life, and how they succeeded in their spiritual path, and how they become more enlightened, more realized, and how, so that sometimes that can be helpful, sometimes because we think, oh, I'm not bright enough, or maybe I don't have enough karma, or maybe, I'm not smart enough, or maybe I don't have time enough for me to succeed in my spiritual path, So all of these can be obstacles for us to be not having confidence and more kind of discouraged, So again, using some example through the histories and others, like can be helpful. For example, there is one story of Papa Lamjung, Arya Lamjung, and there were two brothers at the Buddha's time, One of the brother was very, very smart, very sharp. So he became a monk. He studied and he became a great expert, learned, but then his other brother also wanted to become a monk, but he was not sharp. His mind was very dull. His faculties were very dull. It's such dull that when you teach him he tried to memorize one word and he forget the next word. He tried to memorize the next word, he forget the first one. That is how. At the very beginning, they sent him to one teacher, and after a few months, the teacher gave up. The teacher said he gave up this. He didn't see any possibility of him improving. Then his brother tried to teach him. And also his brother gave up after some time. He said hopeless. Felt hopeless. And so he gave up. So he became very sad. He was crying, because he felt that everyone giving me up because I'm so bad, because I'm so stupid, because I am not sharp. And then Buddha knew, and Buddha show up in that moment and asked him what happened. And he said, everyone give me up. Everyone say I'm not, capable. I'm not good. And everyone's giving up on me, and Buddha said, don't worry, I will teach you, I will guide you, I will lead you, And so, Buddha helped him because Buddha knew exactly what he needed, And so at the very beginning, Buddha told him to clean the shoes or the sandal of the monks, That was job he gave him, And then Buddha told the monks they have to give him the opportunity for him to clean it, because he needed that. He needed to purify. He needed to create merit so that his condition can change. And so because Buddha advised that, so the other monks also give him opportunity to clean, even it doesn't need to be clean, sometimes. So he started to cleaning their sandals, polishing and all of that. And slowly, then Buddha told him to clean around the areas of the monks, And then he taught him two words, Dubang Timapang is like, abandon the stain, abandon the dirt. And so I told him, while you clean up the area, try to recite that. And also Buddha advised other monks to help him to remember that, because he forget when he recite one, he forget the other ones. That was how he was. And so every time monks comes, they will help him to remind that words. Even though it's just two words. That is how he was at the very beginning. So he continued to clean up and reciting that, and then one day he had just enlightening moments. Oh, the word that I've been reciting, clean the stain or clean the dirt. It's not talking about the external stain and external dirt. It's talking about internal dirt and internal stain. Oh, now I understand. It's cleaning your internal stain of attachment. It's cleaning the internal stain or dirt of your anger. It's cleaning the internal dirt of your ignorance. So without being taught, he had his own realizations after some time as he was cleaning and reciting that. And that was the opening for him. That was the opening for him. And then after that, he made a progress in his spiritual path, and eventually he became an Arya, So from being someone who cannot even remember two words, become an Arya, and become a great inspiration for the rest of the monks, followers, Someone who seems to be hopeless and someone who seems, there's no way that he can make any progress, is able to make it because he has the potential. And we all have that same potential. We all have Buddha nature. We all have same potential, the Buddha nature. And so we all have that Buddha nature, the potential. And when the right conditions come together, that Buddha nature can manifest. And that is what we just need to have the right conditions. And so that understanding can help us to be more, even sometimes when we feel, my visualization not good, my meditation is not good, my understanding is not good, and sometimes we might feel like maybe I can't make progress. Maybe it's hopeless for me, Again, remembering those kind of many stories like that, and understanding and realizing that we all have that Buddha nature, we all have that potential. It's all about creating the right conditions for that Buddha nature to manifest fully, And so with that kind of understanding, then we try to have a confidence in ourselves, confidence in our practice. And then, from scriptural point of view, Buddha has said in the sutras, many, that even the insect, such as the flies, they have the Buddha nature. And they can become enlightened. If that is the case, then of course there's no doubt for human beings, even the insect can become they have that potential and to become enlightened, then of course we human beings definitely have more opportunity, better conditions to actualize that potential. And again, through that kind of remembering and recollecting those statements from the sutras, those statements by the material in his writings, statement by the Nagarjunas and all those great masters, enlightened beings, so then that can also again give us more kind of confidence that if I put effort, it's possible for me to make a progress, that I can make a progress, that enlightenment is possible even for me, so that kind of, through that kind of meditations, reflection, contemplation, then we try to build up more confidence. So you have more confidence, you are less distracted, and you have more inspirations, then that can overcome your laziness. That will give you more enthusiasm, and that will give you more perseverance in your practice, in your virtues, by overcoming And then in terms of gathering the conducive conditions, that can support our practice of perseverance in our virtues is, aspirations. Aspiration is very important factors. If you have strong aspirations, no one can stop you from doing what you like to do in every field. You can see, some children's or people's, who have a strong inspiration in certain field. Maybe their parent might not support, and even the parent try to kind of discourage them, but they cannot stop, and they're success in that because they're driven by that aspirations, and because of that strong aspirations, nothing can stop them. Nothing unable to stop them from succeeding what they want to do. What they want to achieve is driven by that kind of aspirations. They have so much aspiration to do that, whatever that field might be. In the same way, if we have strong aspirations in our dharma, strong aspiration in our virtues and in our path, then nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. But we need to build up that strong aspiration, that strong aspirations. And so that is one. The aspiration is one of the main, supporting factors for our perseverance in our practice, in our virtues. And second one, as I mentioned, is steady mind, steady confidence, steady in confidence. You have inspirations and you have confidence, then you are able to have more perseverance, you are able to achieve what you want to achieve. And so here, trying to achieve the path, realizations, the virtues. And like everything else, you have more confidence that you can achieve it, you can succeed it, you will feel more effort. If you are not confident whether you will be able to achieve or not, then when your mind is too minded, then your effort is also less there. But when you are kind of totally into it, that you know that you have confidence that you can achieve it, you can accomplish it, then it drives you for more effort because you see it is reachable. It's something that you can reach, something you can, and so that give you more enthusiasm. If you don't have that kind of confidence, then when your mind, maybe I might not be able to achieve it, maybe yes, maybe not, then your perseverance, your effort will be also a little bit like that. And steady mind and the practice is very important. As in all the teachings says that your perseverance, your practice has to be like the running of the water. Continuity is very important in our practice. It's not like when you are inspired, you practice many hours one day, and then you get uninspired and you don't practice for weeks or months. Again, you get inspired, and again you start to practice many hours for a day or maybe for a week, and again you become uninspired, and again you kind of don't practice for a while. Then it's hard to accomplish. But even you are practicing very short, even it's a half hour, but if you are continuity every day, you will make more progress in that. Having that kind of certain discipline and that continuity. Because when you practice continually, then with that kind of familiarity with the practice, it becomes more and more easier. more and more easier, then it requires less and less effort. When it requires less and less effort, you start to enjoy more. A lot of time we don't enjoy the practice because it requires effort. It requires effort. And so effortless make it more enjoyable. And when you enjoy it, then it becomes easy to practice. So therefore, in order to reach that kind of point, that where you can have enjoying your practice, then you have to go practice where you become, because you do every day, so it becomes, familiarity, and with familiarity, then less effort. Less effort is always good, so that is one of the other factors, to have that kind of perseverance is steady practice, and the confidence, and that one we can see, I think even in monastery we see that, and you see everywhere, there are some bright students at the very beginning in the monastery. When they come, they are very bright. When the teacher explains, they can get it like this, extremely bright. There are some students who have to explain many times before they can get it. The teacher have to explain many times, many different ways before they can get it. But by the end of your studies, after 20 years, some of those who started with a bright one, they are left behind. Those who needed to explain so many times, they excel more. And because they put effort and continuity, the effort and continuity at the end lead them to better result. Whereas others, even though they were so sharp, their mind, they could easily not, because they didn't have that same kind of continuity. They didn't have some kind of effort in their studies. And by the end, when you finish after 20 years, then, they might not end up becoming the great scholars or teachers or students, whatever you call it. So, and that is those are the examples, the that steadiness is very important, in our practice. To have that steady and continuity of the practice is very important factors. Mm. And of course, our practice sometimes are better than other days, and that is okay. Some days our practice is better. Some days our practice might not be so great, but important is continue to keep the continuity. Not give up because today the practice doesn't feel so great. Mm. Even your mind is a little bit distracted, or even you are a little bit kind of exhausted and little feeling uninspired, maybe a little feeling very sleepy, still you continue to do the practice, keep that continuity, it's important, that steady continuity. And then one other factors is joyfulness, as we mentioned before, bringing the joyfulness in your practice, in your virtues. That is important factors. If you enjoy doing practice, if you enjoy doing the virtues, then again, you don't get so tired easily. Getting tired is a lot of time more than physically is mental. Of course, sometimes it is physical as well. Sometimes there is physical exhaustions, physical tiredness. but also it's also a lot to do with the mind itself. You know, if you enjoy something, you can go until midnight, and you can, without little sleep, still you can function very well tomorrow because you enjoy doing that. But if you enjoy doing that, even half hour will feel extremely exhausting, tiring. It's not just the physical, it's the mental state. Because you don't enjoy it, if you have to do extra half hour, it can be very exhausting and very tiring. Just extra half hour, extra 1 hour can make you extremely tiring and exhausting. When you really enjoy it, you can do 2 more hours, 3 more hours still, because your mind is very joyful, enjoying it. You might not feel same exhaustion and tiring. So it's all, it's more mental state, and I believe, for example, like someone like Lama Sopa Rinpoche and also His Holiness, sometimes you wonder how they do that, where do they get the energy, I cannot keep up with Lama Sopa for even 1 week, even after being 1 week around him, after he leave, feel exhausted. And he has been that for all his, as far as I know, last 30, 40 years, 24 hours kind of doing practice, helping, benefiting, teachings, all of that. And because Rinpoche enjoyed doing all of this, he enjoyed teachings for hours and hours, because he enjoyed helping others, benefiting others, because that is what he enjoyed, really enjoy to be able to be benefit and help, whatever that means, doing prayer for others, giving advice for others, doing practice and teaching others. And because of that, I think that is one of the reasons, that they have more energy without feeling as exhausted and tired as physically, even though we might have similar physical, but because of their mental state, that make the difference. Why our body cannot handle and why their body can handle. More than that is their mental, because of their mental state, because of their mental state. And so that is, I think enjoying the practice is very, very important factors. If we can enjoy the practice, if we can enjoy the virtues, then definitely, yeah, it is. I've noticed myself as with many different experiences, how your mind actually is the main, whether you feel tired or not, more than the physical state. It seems to be the mental state is very more important in that. When we were young, during the holidays, sometimes we might stay whole night, playing, and you get early mornings. Maybe you have 2 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep. You just feel fine because you enjoy doing that. But if you have to study with only 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep, you will feel very exhausted and tired by next time, because study wasn't that enjoyable as you're having a games. Physically is same. You are just having 2 or 3 hours sleep, but there's a different response to your body, whether you feel very tired or not, and because of your different state of mind. In one, you enjoy doing what you are doing, and another one you didn't enjoy as you're doing, and so that has the effect on your body. Your body physically, you started to feel more tired, more exhausted. And another thing I noticed, like when we were young, we have to do chore for the monastery. Like you have to do your responsibility. When you are being when the monastery being built, carrying the bricks, digging the foundations, carrying the sands, all of that, and you have no option, but you have to do is part of your training, part of your learning. That is part of the rules, regulations. And sometimes they can be, again, exhausting after the day, when you finish the day after working 8 hours, you feel exhausted, tired. But later, as we get, few years before we finish my studies, again, our monastery was building another, the old in Sera in India, the old prayer hall too small, so they were building bigger one to accommodate more students. At that time, we didn't have to go to the work, because we are senior. But our class wanted to contribute, so we volunteered. We volunteered, our class volunteers, not only our class, some others as well, we volunteered to do that. And when we volunteer to do that, because it's coming from your heart, you want to do that. I didn't feel the same exhaustion, even though it's the same job, it's the same things. Probably I was getting older. Probably I should be feeling more exhausted in terms of the age. When you are young, you have more energy. But at the end of the day, you feel very joyful that you wanted to be service, you wanted to offer the service, you are able to do that. And because of that joyfulness, physically, you don't feel so tired and exhausting. And those are like, I kind of observe your response physically, mentally, and those are experiences that you find differences, so that is where I was trying to explain about, finding the joyfulness in the practice. And one of the things, I try myself, and I try to encourage others as well, is how to make our practice more enjoyable. And sometimes we can be a little bit creative with our own practice. The practice, you don't have to be so rigid, just because in particular meditations or particular practice, it has to do this way. And sometimes you don't feel connected with that way of doing. And sometimes you just have to change a little bit and you started to connect. And once you connect it, you enjoy doing the practice. And that brings you enjoyment because you now connect with that practice. But when you don't connect with that, then even you try to do it and it doesn't bring same level of enjoyment. And sometimes you just have to change very small things, and that can make a huge difference. And sometimes I say, creativity is not just out external, you can be creative with your own practice, and practice shouldn't be rigid. That is why Buddha gave so many different teachings, so many different meditations, not just one meditations, so many different. In terms of the schools, there are 4 schools. Within each of the schools, there are many different methods, And even when we're meditating on one particular issues, whether we are meditating to reduce our attachment or our anger or our ignorance or whatever those. There are so many different meditations, not just one meditations, because certain meditations is more effective and suitable for certain individual than others. A particular meditation, particular practice method that is effective to me, that is suitable for me, might not be suitable for someone else. They might not find that effective. But then they try another meditation, another technique, then they find suitable for them, effective then. And that is why there is so many different meditations, even with one. And so because the most important is finding ourselves, what is most effective for us is like a medicine. You take different medicine and then at the end you decide, oh, this is what helped me. For allergy, different medication. Some medicine, it doesn't help some people. And they try many different, then finally they find one thing that is helpful to them. But someone tried that, it is not helpful to them. And same way, practice meditation is also like that, Sometimes we have to try different techniques, different meditations, and find ourselves which is more effective, is more powerful, which is more suitable for ourselves. And sometimes, as I mentioned, we just have to kind of change very small things. For example, in Vasadaba purification, if you follow some traditional kind of some of the purification visualization, there's a cleansing of all your sickness and spirit harm and all the delusions, all the negative karma, all the delusions, Then in terms of the, yeah, in terms of the spirit harm, there is in certain text, in certain visualization, there's a describe about scorpions and like bear kind of being washed away. I struggle with that. It's hard for me to visualize scorpions, spirit in the form of scorpions and bear and all coming from that. I struggle that. I have difficulty with that. So then I started to change, seeing the unwanted cell, all the spirit in the form of unwanted cells in our body, the bad cells that we need to clean and purify, So I just try to change it because that help is easy for me to do that visualization without that struggle, And that shifted me, particularly with that particular visualization, for example. Just giving a small example like that. Even though in the scripture it didn't explain about, the unhealthy cell being purified, the spirit in the form of that. But it's the same thing, is basically visualizing certain beings in the form of certain being that are being kind of purified, and just shifting that kind of visualization a little bit, my resistance and struggle kind of went away. And then I am able to connect more with that visualization, that practice without that struggles. And so this is just example. You find many in a different practice, some you just have to change, shift a little bit, very small shift, and that can make huge difference to overcome your struggles and resistance, and in certain practice, in certain so I think those are things that sometimes we have to discover. Sometimes, of course, we try to get advice, instruction from our teachers. Sometimes we might be able to get help from our Sangha members through discussions with them. And sometimes you explore yourself and find yourself, So that was one of the another supportive conditions for the perseverance, is cultivating the joyfulness in your practice, the virtues. And fourthly, the other conditions that is resting, what it means is, resting and relaxing when we need to relax and rest, physically, emotionally. Sometimes physically we need to relax because physically you have pushed yourself too much. Even in our practice, sometimes it can be, so we have to listen to our body. We have to listen to our body when it needs a rest, relax, we have to give. Sometimes it's not just body, our mind. Our mind need to relax. Our mind need to rest. Sometimes people get kind of, in Tibetan we use the term lung, kind of disorder of the wind energies. A lot of people have that kind of disorder energy when they do a long retreat. And because they push themselves, they don't know how to relax. They don't know how to relax and rest. They have a goal, they want to achieve, they want to do this much, that much, and they push themselves physically, emotionally, and sometimes people have breakdown, mental breakdown, sometimes physical breakdown, sometimes mental breakdown, sometimes both physical and mental breakdown. You find students who end up like that, and that is because not knowing or not applying to relax and rest. It's just pushing, because you are driven by so strongly to accomplish something and to do something, and and so that can be another obstacles, another obstacles to enjoy your practice. Once you have that kind of obstacles, breakdown, that kind of lung, whether it's a mental breakdown, physical breakdown, or both of them, then it is hard to go back to the practice again. Then it will be very hard to go to practice because you have such a bad experience from that practice. So it can kind of scare the person from going back to the practice, meditation, retreat, So then when they think of the meditations, retreat, it's scary, painful, and scared, and all of that. And so that become very, very, become a big obstacles in our practice. So instead, it's all balancing, And again, the Buddha's teaching on middle way is not only apply in just the view, but it apply in everything. The middle way, we have to find the middle way, the balance in everything. Sometimes we need to push ourselves a little bit, give a little bit more effort. Sometimes we need to relax and rest a little bit. And so just finding just the right middle way, not pushing too much, or not being too lazy, Sometimes we try to rest and relax and become lazy, That is one extreme. We become lazy and not practice. The other extreme is to push too strong, too much, and then we have that kind of breakdown. So again, finding just the right balance in the middle way, knowing exactly when to push a little bit and knowing when to relax, when to rest. That is key in our practice and meditations. Especially, I think it's very important when you are trying to do retreat. Take it easy. Learning to take it easy, relax. So if you can relax when you need to relax, then that will help you to have that kind of perseverance toward the practice, toward the virtues for a long time. Long time. It will help you to have that perseverance, continuity for a long time. So that is the um, another important factors and conditions to develop that kind of continued joyful joyful effort in our practice and the virtues. Um, yeah, I was also having a little bit long at one time, when I was doing a Vajrasattva retreat, because you have kind of uh, you have time and kind of deadline, and you want to finish certain number of the retreat in that period. First, I took it very easy. I was just doing 4 sessions, each session hour and a half, and I was going well. I think maybe it was 15 days. Then while I was reciting the mantras, while I was trying to pay attention, it feel like because you are reciting quickly and it's a long mantras. It feel like sometimes I'm jumping. You know, it feel like I was jumping the mantras. Sometimes it like like. So I thought, oh, maybe I didn't do, maybe I was jumping. So then I kind of let go of all of that. 15, I restarted. I restarted from the very beginning, trying to recite more slowly, and because I didn't want to make that same mistake. When you listen, sometimes it feels like you are doing okay, but sometimes you feel like you are kind of jumping. That was kind of, my mind got kind of a little bit kind of. So anyway, I skipped the 2 weeks that I've done. So I restarted from the very beginning, and I have, only certain time. So then in order to finish that in that time, I started to do, my session got longer and longer. Before it was hour and a half, now 2 hours, and slowly it became 2.5 hours, 3 hours each session. Because I had to do kind of complete it. And then also I wasn't eating the evenings. So then I I think it was long. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. No. And so then my brother was bringing he does the grocery for me. So then I told him, and he said, "Oh, maybe it's alone. Maybe you should take some more butter, and you should eat the dinner. And so I started eating the dinner, and I started taking a little butter because I don't eat the meat. So And then it did help a little bit, it did help a little bit, but still, I still have problem with the sleeping, I couldn't. So I think that was again, that changes in my cases. It changed at the very beginning. First 2 weeks, I enjoy it because it was more relaxed. Hour and a half is doable. It's easy. So I didn't have that problem. But once I started to push a little bit more, increasing the time, 2 hour, 2.5 hour, like that. So then I was not relaxing. I was not resting so much. I was pushing. And that had that kind of effect, disorder in the wind that affected my sleep. So that was my experience. That's my experience. I had problem with the sleep, but I didn't go crazy, so that was good. And my sleep came back. I was still a little bit worried after whether that will continue, but it was just part of that. So yeah, so those are the things you overcome those obstacles, the interference, by applying whatever antidote towards them, and then gathering the right conducive conditions. And when you have free from those obstacles, and when you have gathered all the right conducive conditions or supportive conditions, then you can develop the joyous effort in your virtues, joyous effort in your practice. And when that joyous effort in your virtues is being supported by the bodhicitta mind and the wisdom realizing emptiness, then that becomes the paramita of joyous effort. But if that is not supported by the wisdom realizing emptiness and supported by bodhicitta mind, then it doesn't become the paramita of the perseverance. Even the arhat had perseverance, or those who are on the path to the arhat, they have perseverance. In their perseverance, the object is virtues. They have the joyfulness in that. They have the effort in that, but still is not paramita. It is not still the perseverance of paramita, because that practice is not supported by the mind. Okay. And then, someone might have bodhicitta mind and still they engage in perseverance, but if it's not supported by the wisdom realizing emptiness, still that will not be the paramita, perseverance paramita. It will be practice of both sattvas, but it will not be the paramita of perseverance. So to become that practice, to become a paramita perseverance, then it had to be supported by the wisdom and the bodhicitta mind. So when those two support, that particular practice is supported by that, then it becomes the paramita. Okay. And so that is so yeah, I think so then again, I think so I think maybe I will open for the questions now. Again, I think last week and this week, I think we went a little bit kind of off than our normal structures. I think because of before we used to 45-minute talk, then little break and little meditation and question and answer. But I think last week and this week, I think we didn't happen that. So, but still, I will open for the questions now. So please feel open to questions. Anyone from there or from here? So yeah, you can, as normal, you can raise your hand or you can send in the chat. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Geshe.
Yes, please.
Geshe, just now I heard your teachings. You said about to practice perseverance or any of the paramitas, we need to combine the bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness. I think conceptually, maybe bodhicitta, yes, I can understand. But for people like ourselves, with the wisdom of emptiness, perhaps I think conceptually we're still trying to understand. So how do we do our best to trying to combine the wisdom and emptiness when we practice any of the paramitas? And then Chu has another question following that.
Okay.
Given that you all are highly trained and have got problem of room, little
hands.
little new, trying very hard. What can we do? I mean, we might just go crazy. Thank you.
The best is not to try.
Not to try.
Not even try and practice. No, I'm just being silly. First, I think the first cautions, even we don't at the moment, even we don't have the realization of emptiness, we can try to apply whatever according to whatever our understanding at this point, according to whatever your intellectual understanding of emptiness, you try to apply that, trying to see whatever, the practice, the virtues that we are trying to engage into with that kind of perseverance, by seeing that practice itself, the object of the practice, the virtue itself, the virtues of the perseverance itself, the person that you yourself who is trying to practice that perseverance, all of them are empty of inherent existence. They all are like illusions. So at least, even we don't have, even if someone is not able to go very details and depth into that, at least even just having that little bit of that understanding and just trying to apply that, and same way with all other practice. And so, so that is what we can do at the moment, even we don't have the actual realization itself, but whatever little intellectual understanding we might have, we try to bring that into the practice, trying to connect with the practice, by seeing the object, the subject, the actions, the practice itself being non-truly existence. They're all being like a illusion, like a dream, So you can apply that understanding according to whatever your understanding. So that would be the related to the first cautions by the pair. And now the caution related to Chu, sometimes you learn from your experience. Sometimes you learn from the scriptures and from studying, and sometimes you have to learn by your experience. So even though I learn from the scriptures and from the studies, But sometimes until you really experience it, sometimes maybe you think, maybe I'm exceptional. Do you get it? You might think, other people might get, if they push themselves, they might get long, but maybe I might be exceptional, until you get yourself. And then you realize you are not exceptional, and then you learn from that. Then you learn from that next time, you have to be more gentle with yourself, more gentle, more kind, and not push yourself too much. And so that is so that is part of the practice. That is why it's not just enough learning from the scriptures. Of course, that is the first step, learning from the scriptures. But then next, to actually really apply in practice. By applying and practicing your everyday life, from your life, then that is where you really learn much more personally and more profoundly, more deeply. And so that is why also I share that experience, and that is also why I emphasize, with others, whoever come for any advice, suggestions when they want to go retreat and that. So I share that experience and advise them, not to push themselves and just trying to take it more easy. And so so that is what I've seen other experiencing, and that is also what I experienced myself. And my experience was nothing more than just a sleep. I couldn't sleep. That was the main one. And it was also another experience. I was quite interesting. That experience. Sometimes I will wake up not knowing did I sleep or not. Feel like I slept. At the same time, I don't feel like I slept. I was up like this, turning and then suddenly maybe I might have gone to sleep for 1 hour, few hours, or few minutes or whatever. Then I wake up because I have the alarm, to wake me up. And then did I sleep or did I not sleep? That kind of feeling sometimes you get. But one of the interesting I got is that, even when I didn't sleep, when I did at the very beginning, I thought, oh, maybe I will fall asleep when I do I will not have energy. I will get tired. I will fall asleep. I will not be able to focus when I do my sessions. But it's quite, surprisingly, it didn't happen that. It didn't happen that. And then thought came to my mind, oh, maybe, thought came in my mind in certain times, oh, maybe, we don't need to sleep so much. We don't need to be so much as we believe that we need to sleep as that much amount, to be able to function as a normal, so anyway, so that was just another kind of thought came in that time. Yeah. So that was also, in a way, it is a good experience. In a way, in a sense that it gave me some kind of hope, in a way that maybe I can be able to do practice even without as much as sleep as normally we think we need. That was one thing. And secondly, of course, I learned to be more gentle and not push yourself. So any other questions next? Any questions?
Maybe not more questions, Geshe. Maybe no more questions this morning. I'm sorry. No.
Surprise.
Yes.
Venerable, you don't have question yourself?
There's so many questions, Geshe. Oh.
Any questions here? Does anyone have any questions here?
Maybe
So, we still have 5 minutes if there's questions.
maybe Geshe, maybe I can just say something. If it seems to me this is actually one of the most important teachings for us to take into our practice, isn't it? It feels like without everything that you've presented to us this morning, so many other things don't work very well at all. So I'm very appreciate very much that you always present this wonderful aspect of taking care and being gentle with ourselves, I think, which is I've found extremely useful, but it feels like I couldn't do any of the other practices without this sort of foundation of that all of the components of the developing that perseverance. So, like that. Just
I think
a big topic.
I think being gentle with oneself, I think, of course, we need to practice that. All of us, anyone. And I think maybe I find even more, maybe it's even more relevant to the Westerner, even more. That is how I find. In general speaking, I think a lot of the students, I guess maybe it comes with maybe environment. This idea of perfectionist and idea of accomplishing the goal, driven by that very strongly. And that seems to have, even when you come to the spiritual path, and even when you try to practice spiritual path, because that is your upbringing and in your walk in that, and then you bring that same kind of attitude in the practice and then is very strongly goal driven and perfectionist, and then due to that, I think they push themselves more than actually in other cultures or that, and due to that, then there can be a possibility of those kind of breakdown. So definitely, I think, being more gentle and not pushing ourselves over the limit seems to be important. Okay, so if there's no more questions, still there's question, I can still answer. Otherwise, we'll do the dedications. Okay, so then we'll do the dedications.
I think Geshe Pia raised her hand again.
Okay.
Thank you, Pia.
Sorry if no one else has a question. I might ask a question that Jigme asked me a while ago, which I couldn't answer. But and especially appropriate to his age. So he said, he asked me, Mom, if everything is impermanent, so is Dharma also impermanent? So I didn't give him an answer at that time. So whether Geshe could help and give a response for an age like Jigme.
I think Jigme asked a good questions. Now you have to think. Both of you have to think. When we think of Dharma, it could refer to many different things. There's, if we talk about so we can think Dharma can be permanent, impermanent, Dharmakaya, the wisdom Dharmakaya, and natural Dharmakaya. In terms of natural Dharmakaya, then that is permanent, the ultimate nature of that enlightened mind. In terms of the wisdom Dharmakaya, that is impermanent. So from that result point of view, and from normal on the path, then wisdom relies on the ultimate truth, is the Dharma, the actual ultimate Dharma. And that wisdom is the mind. So then again, the mind is impermanent. Even though in some, even though you find in certain teachings, the mind being a permanent, but it's a different meanings in that. In terms of continuity, then when it says permanent, then it is talking about the continuity, because it's the same continuity from the beginning of lifetime. The continuity never, it continue all the time. Also, we can think the very nature of the mind, that being luminous and awareness, that nature of the mind never changes. So from that perspective, sometimes it is also described as permanent. So sometimes you see that, but in generally, is impermanent. Even though the continuity is go, but it's still changing. It's still momentarily changing, and therefore is permanent. I mean, impermanent. And when we talk about that, is the Dharma in terms of realizations. And if we talk about Dharma in terms of the scripture, the teachings, the writings of how to cultivate that wisdom, the realization within us, those are impermanent. The teachings last, and one day it come to end. And it would have from place to places. In India, Dharma was very flourished at one time, then it disappeared. Some other places it started to come again. Some places it disappeared or become weak, and then in some new places where there are never Dharma before, it's starting to grow. So in that term, then definitely it's changing, impermanent. So yeah, I guess it become a little bit more complicated now. I made it complicated, I guess. I made it now more complicated. But I think maybe generally speaking is impermanent. Let's say that. Yeah. So Jigme, what do you think? So what is the Jigme? What does Jigme think now?
Is it permanent or impermanent?
You have questions now? Do you think is impermanent, the Dharma? Yeah, I see you nodding the head. Yeah. Okay. So then we do the dedications. So we dedicate all the virtues that we have created in past, present, futures, and especially today. May we all achieve fully enlightenment as quick as possible and liberate all sentient beings to enlightenment. Gyawadi nyodo talama sangye tukyo ne doa chi kya ma le pa te sala we parasho. We can also dedicate all our virtues to actualize and fully develop the Bodhicitta mind and wisdom, realizing the emptiness within our mind stream and the mind stream of all sentient beings. Chanjo sem cho rinpo che ma ke pa na ke kyu che ke wa nyam ba me pa yang kong le kong to pe wa. We also dedicate for the long life of His Own Dalai Lama and all our precious holy gurus. Kare rawe kore shinkam de pendang dewa malu chungwe ne chere senwa tenzen jato ye shabe site pato tengyo. And we also dedicate to the long life of Lama Sopa Rinpoche and all our gurus, all their wishes to be fulfilled, all their noble deeds, holy noble deeds be fulfilled. And may we always be under their guidance until we achieve enlightenment. And may we always please them by putting the practices, their teachings and instruction in our practice. Tu tsu chang xin chang gun jia wei, ten zin jiong pe wei kun su to ku ro zi, chou sung ku wei le mo tu tu, a da so du che gun du xiao ten xiu. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Geshe, thank you so much for joining us again this year in the program. We have enjoyed so much and really, really look forward to you returning again in a couple of months' time, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay.
And we wish you a very safe journey to Nepal and hope you have a very wonderful time at Kopan and with your family. And I wish all our very best wishes for you and take good care. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Geshe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Geshe.
Thank you. Good to see you, Greg. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Geshe.
Okay, take care. Yeah, you can.
Thank you, Geshe.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.